Check, check, check. I'm not going to start talking for reals until I see a listener. Come on in, listeners. You know you want to. It'll make you feel good, good, good. It'll make you feel good, good, good. This is going to be really annoying for people who listen to it the second time around. Like, in rerun or whatever. Because in my head I'm thinking, no one's listening to this. But, you might click play later. And then this is what you got until I see anyone's listening. Well, maybe I'll just get started then. What the heck? What is one of the stupidest things you've ever done? An anonymous person asks. Boy, do I have to just pick the one? You can throw a dart at a board and land on stupid. Well, here's one that's pretty freaking stupid. When I first moved to New York, I remember I took the subway for the first time somewhere uptown. I don't remember where I was going or why. But I remember it being 10 blocks from the stop, and I had no idea what a block was for some reason. Even though I grew up, in a town where you'd say around the corner and stuff, but you'd think, up the block was something we might have said. I don't know. But anyway, the sidewalk was comprised of these large square tiles, essentially, and blocks. And I thought I had to walk, 10 paces. And I was very confused and lost for far too long. All right. Wise ask. I'm done babbling to myself, even though I'm now babbling to myself. I'm now officially babbling to myself because there's no one listening yet. See the problem? I wish I could edit this, but I can't. Although I am now, of course, doing these as podcasts for Our Undoing Radio, so I will be able to edit for them. Will I do that for them? Only time will tell. So, I think this show is pretty self-evident what it is. 2 questions. What's the dumbest thing you've ever done on purpose? And how did it go? I have had a lifetime of doing dumb things on purpose. Not a lot of dumb things, but, spread out through time, a lifetime. Because I fancy myself a writer sometimes, and I used to, in that vein, want to do things I knew would fall apart before my very eyes just to have something to write about. Then later in life, I started doing stupid things on purpose just to do them and see what would happen. Now I try to stay away from the stupid, but thankfully now I have stories. So if you would like to join in and be a quote-unquote guest and tell me what's the dumbest thing you've ever done on purpose and how did it work out, that'd be great. In the meantime, I will tell you my story. I mean, arguably I have 2 of the dumbest things I've ever done on purpose. One is moving to Hawaii with no real plan. I mean, I found a place on Craigslist, so I knew where I was going, and I was being picked up at the airport by these folks, but I didn't even have a driver's license, let alone a car. I don't come from wealth, so I didn't have money, and I just moved to this island from the east coast of the mainland. Not exactly sight unseen, but, I vacationed out this way and spent 2 days, I think, on this island. And fell in love with it and knew that I would live here. And so I moved here, within 5 years or so. I just decided, I'm going. So arguably that's the dumbest thing, except that it worked out really well. I'm still here. That was in 2012. And I met my wife, and we're married, and we have a real house and all that. So it worked out, but then when I'm thinking about it, actually, a lot of the dumb things, I don't know if every dumb thing I've ever done on purpose worked out, but in some sense, they all seem to work out. So, but this one really worked out. So I don't know how dumb it was. And it was like a
a dumb crime, if you will, in quotes, of passion, right? Like, I knew I had to do this. I had to move here. So I don't know if that really counts. So I'm going to go with the dumbest thing I've ever done on purpose was when I was living in the East Village of New York, and I don't know, I guess I was at a point where I was down on my luck. And I had a friend from high school, this gal that I had been smitten with forever back in high school and part of college. And I hadn't seen her in years. She lived on the West Coast. She lived in California. But like I said, I was down on my luck. So she said, hey, why don't you come here and babysit for me for a couple of months? I'll pay you. I'll fly you out. I'll pay you. And you can get back on your feet that way. So that's what I did. I got myself a subletting roommate, and I did that. Now, I knew it was stupid because we have a history together. So I know what her psychological baggage is. I also knew that she had a boyfriend at the time, and who she lived with, and this one child that they had together. And I can't remember if I had visited him before or, I guess I had visited before and realized that he's like a sociopath. He's like an abusive sociopath. So I knew that this would not end well, but I did it anyway because how could I pass this up? Like it was such a bad idea. I had to do it. Don't ask me why. So I went out there, and she was living in Sacramento, California. And if you don't know anything about Sacramento, California, there's not much to know. Where she was living was, I guess, northern Sacramento, and there were a lot of like car dealerships, and she was a stripper at a strip club. So you see that this is going to be fun. The things to do out there, I suppose, besides the strip club, included bingo hall, the bingo palace. So it was bingo hall, but it was called the bingo palace. That was the big thing. And then there were like disco bowling and throwing darts. Like these are big activities out there. And so I ended up going. The abusive guy was true to form, although at some point he took off to for, I don't know, days at a time or something. And I mean, it was abysmal. But I had so many like just wackadoodle conversations with people, like at the bingo hall and at the dart/disco bowling place, that it was enough to form a screenplay. So I did a fake, like a mock documentary comedy on the bingo scene, essentially, which I never sold as a script, but then I ended up ultimately putting into a book series. Well, a series in theory. It's the first of the series that I have yet to continue, but B movies in a book. So just taking my old screenplays and converting them into book fashion. And so that ended up good. I mean, like I said, I didn't make the movie, but I certainly had it as a calling card that opened some doors for me back in New York in the TV world. Ultimately, I babysat, I guess, for a couple of months. I brought her to the strip club, which was awkward. It's awkward when you have a friend who's a stripper who's like, I want you to see me work. And then it's like, this is like full on, nudity. And, the guy next to you at the bar is like, oh, she's really into you. And you're like, yeah, that's my married friend from high school. Like, it's like, this is actually awkward. What was really awkward was, for some reason, she sent me home on a bus. It wasn't a round trip plane ticket. So I ended up taking a Greyhound back to New York, across country, which, if you've ever taken a Greyhound bus across country, you know as well as I do. You might as well just kill yourself. It's quicker. You'll arrive as a ghost. Sure, you won't have your body, the convenience of your body, but it's more comfortable. It's just more comfortable. Just take your life. Don't do it. But actually, I got to upstate New York and then had to transfer buses. Had to do that, I think, a few times. But in upstate New York, I made it that far without having anything stolen. And then the bus driver took off without about a third of us. I don't know what happened, but there were like a third of us left behind. And so by the time I got on the next bus, and he was a jerk, he was not mentally sound. You should not be driving a bus. Let's put it that way. By the time I made it back to New York proper, my Walkman, if anyone remembers what a Walkman is, my CD Walkman, was stolen and some CDs. But my precious screenplay, nobody took that off my seat. So that was there. So that was actually what I was glad about. I had my screenplay. So I would say that sort of worked out. Now, the other thing that didn't work out about that, besides the god-awful bus trip back, was that, so the premise is I'm going there, and she's going to take care of me, right? She's going to, Lord only knows why you would offer to do this, but she's going to take care of me and pay me to babysit and all of this. And so, because I was down on my luck, I had no money, I had no job. And so I got back and I cashed the check, or tried to. The check bounced. So she sent me home on a Greyhound bus with a check that bounced. And trying to get a hold of her to see what happened with that check became a lost cause. I think at some point the line was disconnected. Oh, good. I have a guest waiting. Awesome. I'm very glad, because that is kind of where this ends. And again, so it didn't work out at that level, but it worked out that I ended up with a screenplay that I could be proud of. So what is it, if you guys want to chime in, what's the dumbest thing you've ever done on purpose, and how did it go? I'll see the Guru Warrior. Someone named the Guru Warrior is on the line. Let's see if I can get him on here. What's something you're not proud of? Huh. Hey, isn't pride one of those 7 deadly sins? What happened to that? The Guru Warrior, are you with us?
I'm a girl, and I don't think I did dumb things on purpose, but I was young at one point. So, in my 20s, everything was dumb. Okay. Mm-hmm. Everything I did was stupid. And yes, I was a stripper. But we didn't call it that at that time, because it was the 90s and it was exotic dancing.
Really?
And I also worked at the hottest nightclub in New York City called the Limelight. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, I know Limelight.
Woman who danced in the cage overtop the audience on the main floor.
What was that like?
Insane!
I mean, do you have guys groping at you, or women groping at you and all of that? Or is everyone just dancing around?
No. Well, I mean, I was perched over top of an audience inside of a deconsecrated Catholic church. And as an ex-Catholic, it was very difficult for me for 10 minutes to walk inside that building, and say, okay, I'm going in there to party. I ended up there because of a club that I was working at, exotic dancing. And this FBI agent walked up to me and asked me to go into one of those rooms and do him. I was like, you don't have enough money. I said, you're short, you're fat, you're ugly, goodbye. And I was one out of 52 girls that did not get arrested.
Wow.
And humiliated. And so, so
that might have been actually the smartest thing you've done in your
But I wasn't like that though, so, I just like to dance. I've
Right.
always liked to dance. I was trained classically. I went to the performing arts high school, but,
Hmm.
unfortunately, I did not want to go to college, you know, at that time. So I just decided to do that. And I made more money than my parents.
So did it work out for you then? I mean, you're saying that this was,
Oh,
everything you did at points was kind of stupid, but did it work out in the end? Like looking back on it?
yeah, it did. I mean, I still have people that recognize me, from those days. I met a lot of cool people, famous people. It's not like I got a job in acting or anything like that, but I did meet a few actors, a couple of musicians. I even got a chance to audition with J-Lo, you know,
Huh.
for the Fly Girls. And we became friends, for a while. And, my life was just like fly by the seat of my pants type thing, you know.
Mhm.
The only thing that I did wrong was go to Japan.
Uh-oh.
You know,
What happened?
that was wrong. Yeah, because they left me. I went with a whole group of people, and it was the magician, and I was like a background dancer, and it was a whole big production and everything. And they left me. They took my passport, and I ended up with some yakuza people and a hostess, and no passport. And luckily, I
Wow.
was close to an American Army base, and
Did they
it
steal your
ended.
passport, or how did you get there without a passport?
No, I had a passport. I've had a passport since I was a child. I'm West Indian. I spent my summers in Jamaica and Trinidad and Guyana. So my
And so they
passport,
stole your passport?
yeah, they took my passport.
Wow.
They just emptied the safes and, took all the money while I was sleeping. And
Was this were these was this like just a criminal element, or was this the people that you were with did this?
these were professional people that I was working with.
Hmm.
And, unfortunately, the show didn't, vibe well with the Japanese audience. They really didn't want to see a stupid magician with background dancers. It was dumb.
So you had to pay the price for that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there were other people involved, but I really don't want to say the names, but, you know, what made me think that it was okay is because of somebody famous. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. I went, auditioned, everything was okay. Learned all the dance stuff. We did one show. I made $1,000, put everything in the safe, even my passport. I woke up, passport was gone, roommate was gone, I was broke, clothes
Wow.
were gone, and I'm walking and I come up to a hostess bar. So the only thing I could do was what I knew how to do before, you know, which was exotic dancing. He's like, there's no dancing. And I was close to an army base, so it was cool because they could speak a little English,
Hmm.
you know. Now I have a daughter that lives there and speaks like fluent Japanese, Korean, and Chinese.
Oh wow.
And she knows mommy's story, She
I
even
can't believe
has
David
like,
Blaine did that to you. That's horrible.
it wasn't David Blaine, trust me. I
I
don't think
can't
he
believe
was.
Doug Henning did that to you. That's horrible.
Oh my God, Doug Henning. That's hilarious, dude. I
Dated
remember the
myself.
guy. I mean, his teeth to gum ratio is ridiculous.
Well,
Okay, yes,
that
right.
story
That's
is actually
the-
worse than going across the country in a Greyhound. So,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
I mean, that is
pretty-
frightening.
yeah, but I mean, working at the Limelight was pretty cool because, I mean, there was a lot of rich little kids, that went there. So, I mean, they're like, "Do you want to go to London?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah," and we just get on a plane and go.
Huh.
And luckily, I had a passport. So then I ended up spending 2 years in London. Limelight over there was fan freaking tastic. So I had a good time.
Hmm.
Loved it. And I have relatives over there, so that was good. But Japan, not too good. But I did love the culture, and I still watch anime to this day, and I ain't mad at Japan at all.
Well, is it just a coincidence that your daughter ended up living there?
No, actually, her teachers were like, she's not reading very well, you know, and we live in the city, like New York.
Uh-huh.
And so the teachers were like, she speaks well, but she does not read well. What's wrong with her? I'm like, she's bored. They're like, no, she's not. She switches her letters around. I was like, bullshit. Excuse my language. And then, my husband taught her chess, and we spent hours watching anime where you had to read, the subtitles. Samurai X, so she's like, "Mommy, I like this, but I'm so sick of reading subtitles." I was like, "So teach yourself how to read Japanese." So, speak Japanese. So by the age of 10, she spoke it fluently. And, as she got older, it got better. And by the time she was 17, she went to Japan, you know, as an exchange student while American kids were washing their ears out with chlorine. And she went to
Mm-hmm.
high school. And she loved it. And she's like, "Mommy, I want to stay there forever." you know. So
And
she
so
got a
she
college
did.
scholarship. They, all kinds of things. And then she got into the Korean boy band thing. And, they look like
Well,
little
it's
girls.
interesting because the premise of this is the dumbest thing you've ever done on purpose, and how did it work out? And when I was thinking about it, I'm just thinking about
Some
things that
things
you
that
do.
worked out for me.
Well, I just wanted to make a statement on it doesn't sound like you necessarily did dumb things. It sounds like you had a pretty good sense of who you were, and were still willing to sort of be a free spirit and go with the flow to live life. And as opposed to someone who doesn't have a good sense of self, does that and ends up on drugs or doing crime or something,
Oh, don't get me wrong.
suicidal or something. You know what I mean? I think there is a way to go about being a free spirit that you seem to have mastered, which is
Don't get me
you've
wrong.
got to know what your own
I've always-
personal boundaries are, and then you can go out in the world and explore boundaryless.
I left my house at 17. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I did dumb things, and I still do, even though I'm in my 50s. But, I mean, we all do dumb things. It's just how you take it. If you take it personally, then you didn't learn your lesson,
Right.
So if you learned a lesson, then that's good. Then, you're not going to make that same mistake again. But if you keep doing it again, you might as well just walk up to the wall and just start talking.
But I do find myself doing that sometimes. Yeah, right. Why are you punching yourself in the face? I do find myself I know, almost with karma. I know I'm going to do this and it's going to swing back at me and punch me in the face, but I'm going to do it anyway because screw you, karma. I do get stupid and indignant like that at just wanting to do the dumb thing when I want to do it.
Yeah, but that's not dumb. You're just doing shit out of anger because you took it personally.
Right.
There's a thing in Zen that tells you don't take everything personally, because it's not about you. the other person has issues as well.
Right.
So,
True.
don't take it personally. It ain't about you all the time. It isn't. And once I learned that, I was like, holy crap. I started jumping on my bed. I was like, yeah. Now all my kids are grown up and I got grandkids and I'm like, holy crap, man, I don't even have gray hair yet. I got 7 of them. I told my kids, please stop having sex because I'm too young for grandkids.
Wow.
I'm just joking with you, man. Seriously, though. But you are very interesting. And yeah, I've done some dumb things, but it wasn't on purpose because I never took things personally. And, my parents, even though they put the D in dysfunctional in their marriage and their relationship and, just raising me in general, I, never took it personally because, I don't know, my father did me a service. He's like, listen, he took me back to all the things that were messed up in my life, all the places. And he said, let it go, forgive it. My mother had multiple personalities, yet she was a freaking genius that helped to create the World Wide Web, or whatever she called it back in the 80s. I thought she was crazy. I was like, yeah, right. People talk to each other all over the world. Right. Okay, Mom. Yeah. But she did. She was right.
Wow.
I bought her first computer and she didn't even know the language. It was hilarious. But,
well, you sound like you have a lot of interesting stories.
Yes. Are you a writer? Because, I need a writer.
Sometimes, but sometimes I'm a writer. More of a podcaster these days.
Me too, también.
What's that?
I said me too. Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I have an award for poetry.
Oh, congrats. Well, I think the Wisdom app is counting down and there's like 15 seconds. Is there anything you want to say really quickly?
Love, peace, and hair grease.
Well, Guru Warrior, thank you for sharing with me. I really appreciate it. So that was cool. And you know what? I mean, hey, if you're growing up in New York or your young adult life in New York City, and like, the worst thing that happens is you're a dancer at the Limelight. I think you're doing really well in life, honestly. I've been to the Limelight a few times. I used to be a lowly production assistant at MTV Networks, mainly for Nickelodeon, but then VH1. But you get an ID card that has like MTV Networks on it, so everyone thinks you just work for MTV. So you can actually go to these clubs. My favorite was Culture Club because that was like 80s themed. But you could actually like fax them a list of your people and be like, oh, like she had mentioned J-Lo. And I think we actually did that once, like me and a group of people like, oh, we're the entourage with J-Lo. She's going to be coming. And we would get into clubs that way. You just fax over, your ID and show up and you get in for free. So there's your MTV privilege. Another guest awaits. I can't believe this. It's the Guru Warrior again. Okay. Guru Warrior, 3, 2, 1. They're counting you down.
Did you ever go to
Hello again.
After Hours Club called Save the Robot?
No.
Holy crap.
What was that?
It was the After Hours Club that, it had sand on the ground and palm trees on the first floor. And on the bottom floor, it looked like a basement party at your best friend Bud's house. And I mean, that was insane. There
That's
was a lot
cool.
of, people that went there, or a place called Future, because you say you worked for MTV, so I figured, a lot of MTV people we didn't allow to come in
Smart.
because, yeah, I stood at the door for, just for training. So if you recognize my face and I called you bad names, I apologize, but that was part of the job.
Well, it's a long overdue apology. I've been waiting forever for it, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah, you probably showed up in a limo, right? Yeah.
No, never did that.
Mm.
But yeah, no, we would just because these things were like I lived in the East Village, so a lot of this stuff was walking distance. I don't remember where
Oh my
Culture Club was.
God. So you should know about Save the Robots. It was in the Alphabet City.
Didn't venture down that way. This was
Um,
back when such things were like after First Avenue, it became kind of sketchy. Now, of course,
yeah.
everything's
Alphabet
gentrified.
City was kind of, yeah. I know. Okay, the tunnel. I worked there.
Yeah, I've been to the
Go
tunnel.
there.
Yeah,
Did you ever go to Club USA with the big slide? I
no,
used to love to get into work like that. I mean, you had to climb up the stairs and go down this huge, like, slide, and you end up in a pit full of balloons. It was quite irritating after 6 times, but, I still
I don't know
like
if this was in the 70s or 80s, but I had someone I worked
90s.
with told me about a club where the entire place was filled up with bubbles, like bubble stuff.
Oh,
It was like all
yeah,
yeah.
Limelight was like that because Limelight had 7 floors.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. I hated the bubble floor and I broke my arm. So I told my boss I never want to dance on that floor again. So
Wow.
yeah, the bubbles were insane. I think the one that you're talking about though is Octagon,
Yeah, it might
which
be that.
was like over by where the oh my god, that big boat is. Jeez. See, now I
I'll believe
forget
you.
because now I live on the other side of the Hudson. So it's been a
Huh.
long time.
Yeah.
However, they do a lot of, they did New York Undercover over there. So it was kind of
Huh.
cool though. The Octagon, I snuck out of my room when I was 16 years old and I went there and they told me not to drink the punch. And I did. And I hallucinated all through the day and night. My father was waiting for me. I snuck up, the fire escape and he whooped my ass and I just laughed throughout the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, that
This is
was,
how much my life sucks. So when I was working at MTV, everyone knew that I was a huge Michael Jackson fan, and uh, Pyramid Club was like a block or a block and a half away from where I lived, and
I know about that.
They sneaked Michael Jackson into Pyramid one day to film an interview with him. I think for his Invincible album, and nobody told me about that. Like it was such a tough thing. Nobody told me about that. That's my one. Dumbest thing I would have done would have been to sneak into there.
Oh, no way, man. I have snuck into many of them. But when I got busted, I was like, I work for the Limelight. And the guy that owned the Limelight, he owned every, like, super club in New York, like Palladium, Tunnel, Limelight. So, no big deal.
Huh.
But
That's
still,
cool.
yeah, it was cool. But after a while, it got boring, you know. So
Yeah,
there's only so
yeah.
much ecstasy you can do, you know. Okay, the dumbest thing I ever did on purpose was ecstasy, acid and K, and then go to Coney Island and ride the cyclone. Yeah.
Just riding the cyclone alone would be a dumb thing to do. Like, just riding those old rickety rides. You know?
It was. Thanks to Hurricane Sandy, it ended up in the middle of the ocean. And I was like, yes, forget about you, you stupid ride. Scared the crap out of me. I felt like I was going into the sidewalk and coming out of the other side of life because of these drugs that I took. Oh my God. That was the stupidest thing I've ever done on purpose was drugs. You know, like acid and ecstasy. You know, but
I knew there would be one. I knew if you thought hard enough.
I did. That's why I came back up. I was like, that was stupid. You know, it really was. You know, but luckily, you know, I thought about it and I was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't handle it. But what happened was, and it was a really big story, is the guy that I worked for, who was my boss of the dances, Michael Alec, had killed one of our people, a candy kid named Angel, chopped him up and threw him into the Hudson in, you know, several different suitcases. So that was.
Did he get caught, or are you confessing something that I now need to?
No,
do a test patterns down.
I mean, his name is Michael Alec, and I didn't do it. That was my friend, you know. So I'm really, you know.
Did you suspect that he was the kind of person who would do something like that?
Oh, heck yeah, man. I mean, if you go back and look at like some of these shows where they were like, Candy Kids, who are they? What are they about? You know, you will see Michael Alec is like a freaking sociopath. And I couldn't believe that he was younger than me. And I'm like, dude, you're younger than me. I don't have to listen to you. F off. You know, so when I had issues, I usually went to like the owner who was very cool. Peter Gation. He used to wear eye patch, you know. So I called him Pirate Gation. He's from Canada, believe it or not. So, you know, thanks to Rudy Giuliani, he got deported.
Deported back to Canada, huh?
Yeah. And then, you know,
they were back to my health care and my job security.
Yeah.
Why? Why, God?
Weed and mushrooms and all that good stuff. No, but I mean, it was kind of messed up because, you know, that was the age of the big clubs. They just like stopped after that, you know, no more. I even went to an anniversary of Studio 54, which was freaking amazing. 1995. You don't remember that?
Yeah, you know what? When they reopened, that was one of the dumbest things I ever did on purpose too. When they reopened the new Studio 54, they put on a play there that became an off Broadway production of, God, what was it? It was like Alice in Wonderland. I don't remember what it was called.
No,
but it
was not. It was a French play.
No. I'm talking about something else. There was an Alice in Wonderland play that was done by the dudes who produced Flash Gordon, which was like a sort of porno version of Flash Gordon. And they did this so there was like nudity and all of this, and it was the worst script, the worst acting and all this. My friend was working on it, and he's like, Jer, this is the worst thing ever. I could get you a job on this if you want. And I'm like, yes, please get me a job on the worst play. I guess it was a musical that will ever, grace New York. I need to do that. So I did that, and it was, in fact, god awful. But it started off at Studio 54, like right when they first reopened it.
When they reopened it, they had a party first, and they acted like Studio 54. So they played the show and everything. And Roseland, that was kind of fun.
Did you ever go to the Palladium? That was one place I never went. That was like nearby.
Yes, I did, because my boss owned Palladium Tunnel and Limelight and Club USA. So I worked at all of those places. Palladium was awesome. It was like a huge playground, but the Limelight was like a maze. And I really just loved it there. I was like, I don't want to work anyplace else. I went to the Tunnel on hip hop night, and, I look like I'm African American, but I'm actually Jamaican.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did not have a good time there. I was booed off the stage. Not like that.
Why?
I was with those guys that sing Brass Monkey. Doo, doo,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boys, yes. So they got a little wild and started doing stuff around, and I was in the background dancing, and stuff got out of hand, and I was like, forget about this. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why Giuliani went after him, because there was so much violence on Hip Hop Sundays. But there were big names there, like, Nas and Biggie Smalls, and everybody went there. I just didn't want to go. I was like, forget that. Yeah. I'd rather, hang.
Want to live.
Yeah, I'd rather hang from the ceiling inside of a deconsecrated church, and dance in a glass box where nobody could touch me or bother me or talk to me.
Now, do you audition for that?
No, actually, what happened, I told you, the FBI agent, and the guy who was the bouncer said she's a good dancer. And the girl who was dancing there broke her leg. So they had no choice. They needed a dancer ASAP. So I had the clothes and the look, and they just put me up there. If you go to my Instagram page, the Guru_Warrior, you will find a picture of me dancing in that glass box, in that
Awesome.
church. Yes, awesome. So, I know a lot of people like to lie on the internet, but not me. Not important.
It's funny because mostly I interview people for podcasting about paranormal and UFO stuff, and this is
I am psychic as well.
Well, see, this is already wildly more interesting. Like I don't even care that you're psychic.
Okay.
Like this stuff is way more interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have some other stories to tell you if you want.
Well, I'm gonna actually end the.
You gotta go, and you gotta walk.
Yeah, but I wish there were a way to do a calendar on this so we could coordinate. But I guess there's a chat box. Maybe we should coordinate and come back. Yeah.
Ask. All you gotta do is ask. Come here. I'm also on stereo on Friday night, and I did this thing with my girls, 3 New Yorkers. So we get ridiculous.
I like ridiculous. All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you again thanks for chiming in. Okay. Good to meet you.
An anonymous person asks, do you have a go-to song to break out of a funk? I do not. I used to have, I don't get into funks like that anymore, where I need something to break me out of it. But back in the day, when I did, I had two go-to artists. The Jackson 5, I'd put on a best of album, or the best of the Doobie Brothers. Either of those two. You can't feel bad about anything with those albums playing.
All right, everyone. that's it. My brain is spent. I love that though. I actually want to do this again. So hey, I know that there's people listening. What's the dumbest thing you ever did on purpose? How'd it work out? I do want to hear from you. If anyone else wants to chime in, I'll do this again. So I guess there's a little chat thingy. You can connect with me that way. Otherwise, Jeremy at ourundoing.com. You could email me and we'll set it up. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care.